Haile Selassie, King of Kings, a documentary by Saba Alfred. Haile Selassie was the longest-serving emperor of Ethiopia. Not only was he the leader of Ethiopia for 44 years, but he was also an important leader of the Organization of African Unity, the OAU. Chapter 1. Background on Ethiopia. Ethiopia has a long history of being ruled by emperors, one that goes back hundreds of years to the time of King Solomon and Queen of Saba, an ancient name of Ethiopia. Ethiopia is also the only country in Africa that was never colonized. In late 1800s, when Emperor Menelik and Empress Taitu ruled Ethiopia, the Italians tried to colonize Ethiopia. The Italians tried to trick the Ethiopian emperor by giving him a contract that said would make them allies. However, the contract really said that Italy would own the country. But Empress Taitu was smart and made sure to read the document before her husband signed it. She did not allow her husband to sign it, so the Italians declared war. The Ethiopians fought back. Empress Taitu was so brave that she actually went into battle and fought for her country. The Ethiopians successfully defeated the Italians at the Great Battle of Adwa in 1896 and became the only African country to fight off and win a major battle with a European country. Chapter 2. Haile Selassie's early life. Haile Selassie was born on July 23, 1892, 4 years before the Battle of Adwa. Haile Selassie's real name was Tafari Makonnen Wolde Mikael. He was Ethiopia's regent from 1916 to 1930 and became emperor on November 2, 1930, when he was crowned alongside his empress Menen Asfel.
25th anniversary of Haile Selassie I's succession to the throne was celebrated in a symbolic ceremony. The jubilee of the 225th ruler of Ethiopia does honor both to the man and his work. In it, 2.5 decades of laborious progress reached their zenith in a festive occasion. In the morning, in brilliant sunshine, the emperor and the empress leave the palace. They are on their way to the Jubilee Mass in St. George's Church, where Haile Selassie I was crowned emperor in 1930. A motorized escort accompanies the procession through the triumphal arches that span the streets, which are lined by a dense crowd of thousands of people.
When he became emperor, he changed his name from Rastafari to Haile Selassie, which means Might of the Trinity. Haile Selassie was the 225th emperor of Ethiopia, and the last when he was overthrown in 1974. Haile Selassie was born in a mud hut. He was the only surviving son of Ras Makonnen. His father was a cousin of Emperor Menelik II. When Haile Selassie's father died, Menelik II took Rastafari under his wing. Menelik II later died, and his nephew Lige Iyasu became emperor. Iyasu's reign as emperor was very short. During his reign, he converted to Islam, which was very unpopular with most of the Ethiopian people, who had almost 2,000 years of history as a Christian nation. Lige Iyasu was soon overthrown. Empress Autitu took the throne. When she died in 1930, Haile Selassie was next in line to become emperor. Chapter 3. Leadership. Haile Selassie was the emperor of Ethiopia for 44 years. During his time as emperor, the Italians tried again to invade Ethiopia. Unlike their previous attempt in the 1800s, this time they used poisonous gas and chemicals, which are illegal to use in war, in order to defeat the Ethiopians.
In a blazing radio address, Mussolini proclaims his decision: war. Despite the League of Nations, Italy will conquer Ethiopia. Addis Ababa, Haile Selassie protests to the League that the Italians have already invaded Ethiopia. So the emperor orders complete mobilization. He marshals his hosts of fighting men to defend his frontiers.
Haile Selassie thought the best way to end this injustice would be to go to the League of Nations and use diplomacy to get more support to end the invasion by Italy. He gave a very inspiring speech at the League of Nations. In the speech, he told the nations that if they did not help Ethiopia, the same danger of countries invading other countries would happen to them. He was right, because 3 years later, World War II started when Hitler invaded Poland. After the speech, Haile Selassie led his country in battle to stop the invasion, and he was able to secure the help of the British military. Chapter 4: Legacy. Haile Selassie established schools, hospitals, and the first African airlines. His schools helped a lot of people. For example, my grandfather grew up very poor and he was able to go to one of the schools Haile Selassie opened. This made it much easier for him to go to school, because his mother did not have to worry about paying for school. Haile Selassie even visited his school. Haile Selassie also established foreign service agencies that represented Ethiopia to the world. My great-grandfather worked in Haile Selassie's foreign service agency, and my great-great-grandfather met him as well. Haile Selassie was very important to the continent of Africa and not just Ethiopia. He was one of the founders of the OAU. The OAU is an organization to promote unity and development in Africa. The organization was created after the end of colonization in most African countries, so that African countries can help each other develop and modernize. Haile Selassie's legacy can also be found in the Rastafarian movement.
The most rousing, boisterous, tumultuous welcome ever given to any visiting or local celebrity, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, Emperor of Ethiopia, arrived. The crowd erupted into a frenzy of rejoicing as they broke through the lines of soldiers and police and surged out onto the tarmac, eager to engulf the emperor with their affection.
Many Rastafarians believe that Haile Selassie is divine. My dad is a Rastaman, and he said without Haile Selassie, there would be no Rasta people, reggae music, and Bob Marley. Haile Selassie's speeches and teachings are an inspiration to many Rasta people and reggae musicians around the world.
Is finally and permanently discredited.
Chapter 5: Conclusion. Haile Selassie is the longest-serving emperor in Ethiopia. He had an incredible legacy on the country, the continent of Africa, and the world. He was a great leader in Ethiopia as he successfully defended the country against colonization. He used diplomacy to end the war and build the economy of Ethiopia after the fighting. He was also a leader of Africa because he helped form the OAU. Haile Selassie was a very smart and wise leader. Under his leadership, he ended the Italian occupation. Because of his efforts, Ethiopia is the only country in Africa that was never colonized. Haile Selassie's leadership, use of diplomacy, wisdom, and vision to unify Africa inspired many African leaders and benefited Ethiopians for many generations.